The champagne cork hit the ceiling of our dining room with a satisfying pop, and my wife Emily raised her glass with a smile that should have warmed my heart. Instead, something cold settled in my stomach as I watched her celebration. "To Regional Director," she announced, her eyes bright with an excitement I hadn't seen in months. I clinked my glass against hers, forcing enthusiasm into my voice. "You earned it, Em. 5 years of grinding, and finally they recognized it." Our daughters, Lily and Madison, aged 7 and 9, cheered from the kitchen table, not really understanding what the promotion meant but caught up in their mother's joy. I watched Emily down her champagne in 3 quick gulps, already reaching for the bottle to pour another. When had she started drinking like that? "The best part," she said, setting down her glass with slightly too much force, "is that I'll be traveling to the Atlanta office twice a month. Finally getting out of this suburban bubble." That cold feeling spread through my chest. "Atlanta? You didn't mention travel before." "Did I not?" Her eyes didn't quite meet mine. "Must have slipped my mind. It's only 4 days a month, David. Don't be dramatic." I wasn't being dramatic. I was being observant. Over the past 3 months, Emily had changed in ways I'd tried to rationalize. The new clothes, sleeker, more expensive than her usual style. The gym membership she used religiously at 5 a.m. before I woke up. The phone she now kept face down on every surface. The screen she angled away from me when typing. I'd told myself it was the stress of gunning for this promotion. That once she got it, things would return to normal. We'd been married 11 years, together for 14. We'd built a life in Riverside, Ohio. A modest 4-bedroom colonial, 2 cars, a golden retriever named Biscuit. I managed operations at a manufacturing plant. Emily had climbed the corporate ladder at Meridian Financial Services. We were living the dream, weren't we? But watching her pour a 3rd glass of champagne while our daughters asked about dessert, I realized the dream had developed cracks I'd been too afraid to examine. "When's the first trip?" I asked, keeping my tone neutral. "Next Tuesday." She finally looked at me, and something flickered across her face. Defiance? Guilt? It vanished before I could identify it. "I'll leave Monday night, actually. The meetings start early Wednesday, so I need to prep Tuesday evening." "That's in 5 days. Your math skills are sharp as ever." The sarcasm was new too. Emily had always been direct, sometimes blunt, but never cruel. "Think you can handle the girls for 3 nights? I'm their father, not a babysitter." "Could have fooled me, given how often you're actually present." The girls had gone quiet, sensing the tension. Madison's eyes darted between us, her small face worried. Lily focused intently on her plate. I swallowed the retort building in my throat. "Girls, why don't you go watch TV? Your mom and I need to talk." They fled with the speed of children who'd learned to recognize the prelude to an argument. Once their footsteps thundered up the stairs, I turned to Emily. "What's going on with you?" "I got a promotion. I'm celebrating. Is that a crime?" "You know what I mean. You've been different, distant. Now you're making digs about me not being present when I'm home every night at 6. I coach Madison's soccer team. You exist, David. You don't live." She set down her glass, and her voice dropped to something quieter, more dangerous. "You go through the motions. Work, home, dinner, TV, bed. Repeat. Do you even remember the last time we did anything spontaneous? Anything exciting? We have 2 kids and a mortgage. That's what adult life looks like." "No, that's what your life looks like. Some of us want more." The words hung between us like a challenge. I studied my wife's face, still beautiful at 36, though harder somehow than the woman I'd married. When had the softness left her eyes? "Is there someone else?" I hadn't planned to ask. The question escaped before my rational mind could cage it. Emily's expression shifted through surprise, anger, and something else before settling on indignation. "Wow, I get a promotion, and immediately you accuse me of cheating? That's incredibly insulting, David. I didn't accuse. I asked. Same thing. She grabbed the champagne bottle and her glass. I'm going to take a bath. Thanks for ruining my celebration. She swept out of the room, leaving me alone with the remains of the dinner I'd cooked, the cake I'd bought, the congratulations banner the girls and I had hung. I sat in the silence, listening to the muffled sound of the TV upstairs, the creak of pipes as Emily ran her bath. My phone sat on the table beside my plate. I picked it up, thumb hovering over the screen. I'd never been the jealous type, never felt the need to check up on Emily. Trust was the foundation we'd built our marriage on. But foundations crack, and once they do, the whole structure becomes unstable. I opened my laptop instead, pulling up our cell phone account. Just to check the bill, I told myself. Just to make sure everything was in order. I was the one who handled our finances anyway. This was normal, routine. The call log loaded, and I stared at the screen, my dinner turning to stone in my stomach. One number appeared again and again in Emily's records. Sometimes 3-4 times a day. Calls lasting 30 minutes, 45 minutes. Text messages in the hundreds. The number had a Georgia area code. I sat in my car outside the gym, phone still in my hand, staring at the call log until the screen went dark. The numbers didn't lie. 347 text messages in the past month. 42 phone calls, most lasting longer than half an hour. All to that Georgia number. I should have driven home. Should have confronted Emily immediately, thrown the evidence in her face the way they do in movies. But something stopped me. Maybe the part of me that still hoped for an explanation that would make sense of everything. Or maybe I just needed more proof before I destroyed what was left of my marriage in front of our daughters. The gym's neon sign buzzed in the twilight. LA Fitness, the same chain where Emily had started her new routine 3 months ago. 5 in the morning, 6 days a week, returning home showered and energized while I got the girls ready for school. I pocketed my phone and walked inside. The blast of air conditioning hit me first, then the smell. That particular combination of rubber mats, cleaning solution, and sweat that every gym shares. The receptionist, a blonde woman in her mid-20s wearing the staff polo, looked up from her computer with a practiced smile. Welcome to LA Fitness. Checking in? Actually, I'm here about my wife's membership. Emily Brennan? Her fingers moved across the keyboard. Sure, let me pull that up. Are you David? I am. You're listed as the secondary on the family account. She studied her screen. Is there a problem with the billing? No, nothing like that. I leaned against the counter, trying to appear casual. I was actually hoping to surprise her with some additional personal training sessions. She's mentioned how much she's been enjoying working with her trainer. The receptionist's smile brightened. Oh, she works with Kyle. He's fantastic. Really popular with our morning clients. Kyle, a name to attach to the suspicion. That's the one, I said. How long has she been training with him? More keyboard clicks. Looks like about 3 months now. Twice a week, usually Tuesday and Thursday mornings at 5:30. Exactly when her new routine started. And does Kyle teach yoga classes too? I thought she mentioned something about yoga. The receptionist's brow furrowed slightly. Kyle? No, he's strictly personal training and weight work. We have yoga on Monday and Wednesday evenings, and Saturday mornings. Different instructors for those. My mistake, I said, filing away the discrepancy. Emily had definitely mentioned yoga, multiple times. So if I wanted to book some sessions as a gift, how would I go about that? I can set that up for you right now if you'd like. Kyle's pretty booked, but I can check his availability. Actually, let me think about it. Maybe I'll come back tomorrow. I turned to leave, then stopped as if something had just occurred to me. Oh, one more thing. Does your lost and found keep a log? My wife thought she might have left a towel here last week. We do, actually. Corporate policy, we have to track everything that comes in and goes out. She pulled a binder from beneath the counter, flipping it open. What day did she think she left it? Last Tuesday, maybe? The 23rd? Her finger traced down the entries. Tuesday the 23rd. Okay, here we go. Blue towel with monogram EB. Turned in at 7:15 a.m. Claimed same day at 6:30 p.m. That's probably it. 7:15. Emily's sessions with Kyle supposedly ended at 6:30, according to what she'd told me. 45 minutes unaccounted for. Perfect. Thanks for checking. No problem. And let me know about those training sessions. Kyle really is great. I bet he is, I thought. Back in my car, I sat with the engine running, assembling the pieces. The Georgia phone number. The trainer named Kyle. The towel left behind after her session should have ended. The yoga classes she'd mentioned, but that didn't align with Kyle's schedule or the gym's offerings. My phone buzzed. A text from Emily. Running late, can you start dinner? I stared at the message. She was supposed to be at the office finishing up a proposal. At least, that's what she'd said this morning. I opened the location sharing app we'd set up years ago, back when the girls were babies, and we'd wanted to keep track of each other's whereabouts for safety. Emily had never turned hers off, probably forgot it existed. The map loaded. Her phone's location pinged from an address in Santa Monica, nowhere near her office in downtown LA. I plugged the address into Google Maps. Street view showed a modern apartment complex, all glass and steel, with a courtyard and what looked like a rooftop pool. My hands tightened on the steering wheel. I could drive there, catch her in whatever lie she was constructing. But confronting her at someone else's apartment, possibly Kyle's apartment, felt like a line I wasn't ready to cross. Not yet. Not without being certain. Instead, I drove to the gym's parking lot exit and waited. 40 minutes later, Emily's silver Lexus pulled into the lot. I watched her park, check her reflection in the rearview mirror, and walk inside carrying her gym bag. She moved with purpose, her posture different from how she carried herself at home. More confident, almost excited. I gave her 5 minutes, then followed. The receptionist recognized me and nodded as I entered. I headed toward the weight area, keeping to the periphery, scanning the floor. I found them near the squat rack. Emily wore black leggings and a sports bra I'd never seen before, her hair pulled back in a high ponytail. The man spotting her, Kyle presumably, looked exactly like what I'd pictured. Mid-30s, athletic build, the kind of symmetrical features that probably made him popular on Instagram. He stood close, hands hovering near her waist as she completed a set, his mouth near her ear as he said something that made her laugh. Not the polite laugh she used at company dinners. A real laugh, the kind I hadn't heard from her in months. When she finished the set, she turned toward him, and he handed her a water bottle. Their fingers touched longer than necessary. She said something, he responded, and she playfully swatted his shoulder. I'd seen enough. I walked back to my car, my mind eerily calm despite what I'd just witnessed. The pieces had assembled themselves into an undeniable picture. The phone calls to Georgia, probably another man, someone from her business trips. Kyle, the local distraction, the reason for the early mornings and the new wardrobe. Not one affair. 2. My phone buzzed again. Emily. Forgot I have a late training session. Be home by 8. Order pizza for the girls? The lie came so easily to her now. I drove home on autopilot, my thoughts crystallizing into a plan. Confronting her with suspicions would give her room to deny, to explain away, to turn it back on me for not trusting her. I needed something concrete, something she couldn't talk her way out of. The house felt too quiet when I walked in. Mrs. Patterson from next door was watching the girls. Emily had arranged it this morning, claiming she'd be working late. Another lie, I now knew. Daddy! Madison ran to hug me, Lily close behind. "Hey, sweetheart, you girls have fun with Mrs. Patterson?" "She let us make cookies," Lily announced proudly. "That's great," I managed to smile. "Go wash up. We're ordering pizza for dinner." After Mrs. Patterson left and the girls were occupied with their tablets, I went to our bedroom. Emily's laptop sat on her desk, closed but not locked away. She'd always been careless with her passwords, used the same one for everything, a combination of her maiden name and birth year. The computer opened to her email. I hesitated for only a moment before opening her sent folder. The first email I found was from 3 days ago, sent to an address I didn't recognize. Email protected. The subject line read, "Can't wait." I clicked it open. "Tuesday can't come soon enough. I've been thinking about last time all week. Tell me again what you want to do to me when I get there." My stomach turned, but I kept reading. The response from someone named Brett Coleman was explicit enough to confirm everything. The thread went back weeks, detailing encounters in Atlanta, plans for future visits, complaints about her boring marriage, and checked-out husband. I sat back in the chair, staring at her words on the screen. This was Emily, my wife, the mother of my children, writing these things to a stranger in Georgia while I made school lunches and helped with homework. A sound from downstairs, the girls laughing at something on their show, snapped me back to reality. I needed evidence. Real evidence. The kind that would hold up in court. The apartment building sat on a tree-lined street in Santa Monica, 3 stories of beige stucco with balconies overlooking a courtyard pool. I'd driven past it twice already, confirming the address matched the location ping from Emily's phone. Now I sat in my Honda Accord half a block down, watching the entrance. 3:47 in the afternoon. Emily had texted me at 2:30. "Running late at office. Don't wait dinner. Home by 8. Her BMW was parked in the visitor lot. I'd spotted it immediately, the custom license plate frame from the dealership where she'd bought it last year. I should have felt something. Rage, maybe. Betrayal. The crushing weight of 11 years collapsing. Instead, I felt oddly calm, almost detached, as if I were watching someone else's life disintegrate through a screen. My phone sat on the passenger seat, recording app ready. I'd bought a small digital camera at Best Buy that morning. Nothing fancy, just enough to document what I already knew. The receipt was still in the bag. A man emerged from the building's entrance. Tall, athletic build, wearing gym clothes and carrying a duffel bag. He walked to a silver Lexus, threw the bag in the back, and drove away. Not Kyle. I'd studied the trainer's Instagram enough to recognize him instantly. This guy was older, maybe mid-30s, with dark hair going gray at the temples. I waited. At 4:15, movement at the entrance. Emily stepped out, smoothing her skirt. The navy one she'd worn to the office this morning. Her hair looked different. Messier. She paused to check her phone, and even from this distance I could see her smile. She walked to her car, got in, and pulled out of the lot. I didn't follow. I already knew where she was going. Home, eventually, after stopping somewhere to establish her alibi. Maybe the Starbucks near her actual office. Maybe the dry cleaners. Somewhere she could mention casually later, some detail to anchor her lie. Instead, I got out of my car and walked to the building. The directory in the lobby listed 24 units. No names, just numbers. The door required a key fob or a resident to buzz you in. I stood there, staring at the intercom panel, trying to decide what I was doing. "Can I help you?" I turned. A woman in her 60s stood behind me, holding a small dog on a leash. She wore a concerned expression, the kind residents get when they find strangers in their lobby. "I'm looking for someone," I said. "Brett Coleman?" Her expression didn't change. "Don't know that name." "He lives here, or someone does." I'm trying to figure out which unit. Are you a cop? No, just trying to find someone. She studied me for a long moment, then shook her head. Can't help you. She moved past me to the elevator, swiped her fob, and disappeared behind closing doors. I stood there another minute, then left. That evening, Emily came home at 7:50, carrying takeout bags from the Thai place near her office. Thought I'd grab dinner, she said, breezing into the kitchen. You eaten yet? No. Good, I got your usual. Pad CUW, extra broccoli. She started unpacking containers, moving with the easy efficiency of someone whose day had been perfectly ordinary. How were the girls? Fine, homework's done. They're watching something upstairs. Great. She glanced at me. You okay? You look tired. Long day. Tell me about it. She opened the refrigerator, pulled out a bottle of white wine. I spent 3 hours in back-to-back meetings about the Atlanta rollout. My brain is fried. I watched her pour a glass, take a long sip. She'd changed clothes, the navy skirt replaced by yoga pants and a loose t-shirt. Her hair was pulled back now, damp at the edges. She'd showered. How's the office? I asked. Insane. We're still trying to finalize the Q2 projections and half the team is behind on their reports. She opened a container of pad thai, started eating directly from it. I might need to go in this weekend, get ahead of things before the Atlanta trip. When is that again? Next Thursday, I'll be back Saturday afternoon. She looked at me. I told you this already. Right, I forgot. She returned to her phone, scrolling while she ate. The screen reflected in her wine glass. Text messages, endless text messages. Emily. Who's Brett Coleman? Her hand stopped mid-scroll. Just for a second, barely perceptible, but I saw it. Then she looked up, her face perfectly composed. Who? Brett Coleman, Georgia area code. I don't know what you're talking about. You've called him 42 times in the past month. 347 text messages. She set down her phone very carefully. Have you been going through my phone records? I checked the account. I'm on it too, remember? That's a violation of my privacy. We're married. It's a joint account. That doesn't give you the right to spy on me. Her voice had gone cold, controlled. I can't believe you'd do something so paranoid. Answer the question. There's nothing to answer. I don't know anyone named Brett Coleman. 347 texts. Maybe it's a work contact. I talk to dozens of people. At midnight? At 2 in the morning? She stood abruptly, chair scraping against tile. I'm not doing this. I'm not going to stand here and be interrogated like a criminal because you've decided to become some kind of jealous psycho. I saw your car at the Santa Monica apartment today. The color drained from her face. Just for a moment, then it came rushing back, red and furious. You followed me? I checked your location. Same app we use to track the kids. You're insane. You know that? You're actually insane. She grabbed her phone, her wine glass. I was meeting a client, a potential client for the Atlanta office. He's relocating from New York, and we met at his temporary apartment to discuss, what's his name? What? The client. What's his name? She stared at me, and I saw the calculation happening behind her eyes. She was trying to decide whether to commit to the lie or pivot to something else. I don't have to explain myself to you, she said finally. I don't have to justify every meeting, every phone call, every minute of my day because you've suddenly decided to become controlling and paranoid. I found the emails. The words hung between us. Her face went very still. What emails? Your laptop. The ones to Brett. The ones where you called our marriage boring. Where you called me checked out. Where you described... I stopped, swallowed. Where you described what you did with him in Atlanta. She set down the wine glass. Her hand was shaking. You went through my laptop. You left it open. That's my private property, my work computer. It's our life, Emily, our marriage, our family. There is no our anymore. The words came out sharp, vicious. There hasn't been for years. You just didn't notice because you're too busy sleepwalking through your pathetic little existence. So you're admitting it. I'm admitting that I'm done. Done with this conversation, done with your accusations, done with pretending that we have something worth saving. She moved toward the stairs. I'm going to pack. I'll stay at a hotel tonight. Don't bother. I'll go. She turned back. What? I'll leave. You stay with the girls. Tell them whatever you want. I stood, grabbed my keys from the counter. I'll be at my brother's. David, we'll figure out the rest later. Lawyers, custody, all of it. But I'm not doing this tonight. Not with Lily and Madison upstairs. I walked past her toward the garage. She didn't try to stop me. In the car, I sat for a moment, hands on the steering wheel, staring at the closed garage door. Through the wall, I could hear the faint sound of the television upstairs. The girls watching their show, completely unaware that their world was ending. I pressed the garage door opener and backed out into the night. I found myself standing in the parking lot of LA Fitness at 6:47 a.m. on a Tuesday, 3 days after moving into Ryan's spare bedroom. The gym's neon sign flickered against the gray dawn sky, and I watched a steady stream of people in athletic wear flow through the entrance. Somewhere in that building was the towel that would either confirm what I already knew or prove I'd become the paranoid husband Emily accused me of being. The night before, I'd lain awake on Ryan's lumpy futon, replaying the confrontation in our living room. Emily's words, "There is no hour anymore," had carved themselves into my thoughts with surgical precision. But something else nagged at me, a detail from the phone records I'd reviewed obsessively in the sleepless hours. The calls to Brett Coleman's Georgia number had started 4 months ago. The gym membership charge on our joint credit card appeared 3 months ago. The timeline didn't align with a woman who'd simply fallen for someone during business travel. I'd called the gym yesterday afternoon, claiming I needed to pick up my wife's forgotten towel. The receptionist, a cheerful woman named Amber, who sounded barely out of college, had been apologetic but firm. "We have a bunch of stuff in Lost and Found, but you'd need to come identify it in person. Policy, you know?" So here I was. The gym smelled like rubber mats and industrial cleaner. A massive space stretched before me. Rows of treadmills facing wall-mounted televisions. Weight machines arranged in neat clusters. A separate area with free weights where men grunted through their morning routines. Through a glass wall to my left, I could see a yoga studio where a class was already in session, bodies bent into downward dog. Amber looked up from the front desk with the same perky smile I'd heard over the phone. She wore a fitted LA Fitness polo and had her blonde hair pulled into a high ponytail. "Good morning. How can I help you?" "I called yesterday about my wife's towel," I said. "Emily Brennan. She's a member here." "Oh, right." Amber's fingers flew across her keyboard. "Let me pull up her account real quick. Brennan, you said?" I nodded, watching her screen. From my angle, I could see Emily's membership photo, a smiling version of my wife I barely recognized anymore, taken 3 months ago when she'd signed up. "Okay, so she's one of our regular morning members," Amber said. "Looks like she's usually here around 5:30 a.m. for personal training sessions with Kyle." She glanced up. "He's great, by the way. Really knows his stuff." "I'm sure he does." The words came out flatter than I'd intended. "The towel?" "Right, sorry. Lost and Found is back here." She stood and gestured for me to follow her behind the desk to a small room lined with metal shelving. Cardboard boxes overflowed with abandoned water bottles, single shoes, earbuds, and tangled charging cables. On the top shelf, neatly folded towels formed a colorful stack. "Do you know what it looks like?" Amber asked. White, probably. Maybe with her initials. Emily had received a set of monogrammed towels from her mother last Christmas, an oddly practical gift I'd thought excessive at the time. Why would anyone need their initials on a towel? Amber pulled down several white towels, spreading them on the counter. The third one had EB embroidered in navy blue thread on the corner. I reached for it, then stopped. Can I see your lost and found log? I want to make sure this is actually hers before I take it. Oh, we don't usually let people see that, but… Amber hesitated, then shrugged. I guess it's not classified information or anything. Hang on. She retrieved a spiral-bound notebook from beneath the counter and flipped it open. The pages were divided into columns. Date, item description, turned in by, location found, claimed by. I scanned the entries, looking for the towel. There, February 14th, Valentine's Day. The irony wasn't lost on me. White towel, monogrammed EB, I read aloud. Turned in by Kyle M., found in private training room. Yeah, that's Kyle's space, Amber said helpfully. The small studio in the back corner. He does one-on-one sessions there. I stared at the entry. The timestamp showed 7:15 a.m. Emily had told me she'd gone to an early yoga class that morning before work. I'd still been asleep when she left, but I remembered her coming home with coffee and pastries, kissing my cheek, wishing me a happy Valentine's Day. We'd had dinner reservations that night at the Italian place downtown. She'd worn the red dress I'd bought her for Christmas. Can I take this? I asked, my voice steady despite the pressure building in my chest. Sure thing, let me just log it. Amber made a notation in the book, then handed me the towel. I unfolded it slowly. The fabric was thick and plush, the kind of expensive towel Emily preferred. As it opened, a scent hit me. Not the detergent Emily used at home, but something else. Cologne. Definitely cologne, with notes of cedar and something citrusy. Not my brand. Not anything I'd ever worn. Is Kyle working today? The question came out before I'd fully formed the thought. Amber checked her computer again. He's got clients from 7 to noon. Should be in the training room now, actually. Do you want me to… No. I folded the towel carefully, precisely, creasing it along the original lines. No, thank you. This is all I needed. Back in my car, I sat with the towel on my lap and pulled out my phone. I'd started documenting everything after finding the emails, screenshots, photos, detailed notes with timestamps. My attorney would need a clear timeline, Ryan had said. Evidence that could withstand scrutiny. I photographed the towel, making sure the monogram was visible. Then I opened the voice memo app and recorded myself describing what I'd just learned. The lost and found log entry, the date, the location where it had been found, the scent that wasn't mine. Facts, just facts, delivered in the same calm tone I used for incident reports at the plant. The drive back to Ryan's apartment took 20 minutes through morning traffic. I spent it thinking about Valentine's Day, about how Emily had seemed especially affectionate that evening, how she'd suggested we open a bottle of wine when we got home, how she'd initiated intimacy for the first time in weeks. I'd thought we were reconnecting. I'd been grateful. The towel sat in the passenger seat, like evidence at a crime scene. Ryan was drinking coffee in his kitchen when I walked in, still wearing yesterday's t-shirt and boxers. You're up early, he said, then saw my face. What happened? I set the towel on his counter and told him everything. The gym, the log entry, the private training room, the cologne. He listened without interrupting, his expression growing darker. Valentine's Day, he said when I finished. Jesus, David. I need to go home. The words surprised me even as I said them. I need to talk to her again. Why? You already know? I need her to see this. I picked up the towel. I need to watch her face when she tries to explain it. Ryan set down his coffee mug. That's not going to give you what you want. She's already admitted the marriage is over. What's this going to accomplish? I don't know. And I didn't. But the towel felt like proof of something beyond the emails and phone records, something physical and undeniable. Brett Coleman was 2,000 miles away, easy to compartmentalize as a mistake, a lapse in judgment during business travel. But Kyle was here, in our city, at the gym where Emily went every morning while our daughter slept and I got ready for work. Kyle was the scent on a towel left behind in a private room on Valentine's Day. I checked my watch. 8:15 a.m. Emily would be at work by now, in her new office with the window view she'd mentioned exactly once before. The promotion stopped being something we discussed. The girls were at school. The house would be empty. I'm going home, I said. I'm going to wait for her. Ryan studied me for a long moment. You want me to come with you? No. I folded the towel again, precisely, the way Emily folded laundry with hospital corners and exact creases. This is something I need to do alone. The drive to our house, to what used to be our house, what might soon be just Emily's house or just my house or neither of our houses, took 12 minutes. I used my key, half expecting her to have changed the locks already, but the door opened smoothly. Inside, everything looked exactly as I'd left it 3 days ago. The champagne bottle still sat on the counter, empty. The banner Madison had made still hung crooked in the dining room. Emily's laptop was gone from the kitchen table, but her coffee mug remained, a dark ring staining the bottom. I set the towel on the dining room table, spread it out flat with the monogram facing up, and sat down to wait. I sat in the empty house, the towel spread across the dining room table like evidence at a crime scene. The monogram, ELB, Emily Louise Brennan, mocked me in elegant cursive stitching. I'd photographed it from multiple angles, documented the lost and found log entry on my phone, even captured a short video of myself unfolding it at the gym while narrating the timestamp and location details. The cologne smell had faded during the drive home, but I could still detect it if I leaned close. Something expensive and aggressively masculine. Not my scent. Not anything I'd ever worn. My phone showed 4:47 p.m. Emily's calendar, which I could still access through our shared family account, indicated a client meeting until 5, then nothing. She'd be home by 6:30, maybe 7, if she stopped somewhere first. The girls were at Ryan's. I'd asked him to pick them up from school, told him I needed a few hours. He hadn't asked questions. I stood and walked to the kitchen, poured myself 2 fingers of the bourbon Emily had started keeping in the cabinet. The expensive stuff she'd bought last month, another new addition to our household. I wondered if Brett Coleman drank bourbon, if Kyle the trainer did. My hands were steady. That surprised me. I'd expected rage, the kind that makes you shake and sweat. Instead, I felt cold, clinical, like I was preparing for a business presentation rather than the destruction of my marriage. The phone in my pocket buzzed. Emily. Running late, don't wait on dinner. I typed back, no problem, I'll be here. 3 dots appeared, then disappeared. No response. I returned to the dining room and sat down, the towel directly in my line of sight. The lost and found log had been remarkably detailed. LA Fitness kept meticulous records, probably for liability reasons. The attendant, a tired-looking woman named Patricia, had pulled up the entry without hesitation when I'd explained I was trying to track down my wife's missing towel. Oh yeah, she'd said, scrolling through the digital log. Found in Training Room C on February 14th, 7:15 a.m. That's Kyle's private session room. She'd glanced up at me. Your wife trained with Kyle? Apparently, I'd said. February 14th. Valentine's Day. The morning Emily had kissed me goodbye at 6:30, said she had an early yoga class, promised we'd celebrate that evening. We'd gone to Castellano's, the Italian place downtown. She'd worn the black dress, the new one. She'd been on her phone half the night, I pulled up my photo gallery and found the pictures from that evening. Emily smiling at the camera, wine glass raised. Emily laughing at something I'd said. Emily checking her phone while I was in the restroom. I'd caught that one by accident. Had been testing the camera's zoom feature. I forwarded the Valentine's dinner photos to myself via email, then opened my laptop. The confrontation needed to be documented. Not for emotional purposes. I was past needing to understand or process. For legal ones. Ohio was an equitable distribution state, not community property, but fault could matter in certain circumstances. Adultery wouldn't necessarily change the asset division, but it could impact spousal support. More importantly, it would matter for custody. Emily's travel schedule already complicated things. Evidence of her prioritizing affairs over family stability would strengthen my position. I opened a new folder on my desktop. Documentation. Started organizing files, phone records, email printouts, the photos from Santa Monica, screenshots of her lies about whereabouts. Now the towel photos and lost and found log. My email dinged. A response to one of the inquiries I'd sent yesterday to divorce attorneys. Jeffrey Walsh from Walsh & Partners, offering a consultation tomorrow at 10 a.m. I confirmed the appointment. The front door opened at 6:52 p.m. Emily's heels clicked across the hardwood floor. I heard her set down her bag, the familiar sound of her keys hitting the entry table. The refrigerator opened and closed. She was getting wine, probably. The routine was predictable now. David. Her voice carried from the kitchen. You home? Dining room. More heel clicks. She appeared in the doorway, wine glass in hand, still in her work clothes, charcoal suit, cream blouse. She looked tired. Good. Her eyes went to the towel on the table. I watched her face carefully, cataloging the micro-expressions. Confusion first, then recognition, then something that might have been fear before her features hardened into defensiveness. What's that? Your towel, I said. From the gym. I picked it up from Lost and Found today. She took a sip of wine. Okay, thanks, I guess. I didn't realize it was missing. It's been there since February 14th, I continued, keeping my voice level. 7:15 a.m., training room C. That's Kyle's private session room, according to the staff. The wine glass paused halfway to her lips. So you told me you had yoga that morning, Valentine's Day. You left at 6:30, came home at 8:45, showered, went to work. I did have yoga. Yoga doesn't happen in Kyle's private training room, Emily. Yoga happens in the group studio. I checked the schedule. There was no yoga class at 7 a.m. that day. She set the wine glass down on the table, not using a coaster. The condensation would leave a ring on the wood. She'd always been meticulous about coasters before. Are you seriously doing this? Her voice had an edge. Tracking my gym schedule now? Investigating my towels? The towel has cologne on it, I said. Men's cologne, not mine. It's a gym, David. There are men at the gym. Things get mixed up in the laundry, or someone grabbed it by mistake, or it was found in a locked private training room, with your monogram on it, on Valentine's Day morning when you lied about where you were. I didn't lie. I had a training session. That counts as a workout. You said yoga. I misspoke. Jesus Christ, is this what we're doing now? You're going to interrogate me about every word I say? I pulled out my phone, opened the recording app, and set it on the table. The red dot indicated it was already running. Had been since before she got home. Emily's eyes fixed on the phone. Are you recording this? Yes. You can't do that. Ohio is a one-party consent state, I said. I can record any conversation I'm part of. I checked. Her face flushed. You're insane. This is insane. February 14th, 7:15 a.m. You were in a private training room with Kyle. March 3rd, You were in Santa Monica when you told me you were at a client dinner in Pasadena. March 7th through 9th, you were texting Brett Coleman 47 times while supposedly in Atlanta on business. Would you like me to continue? The color drained from her face. She grabbed the wine glass, drained half of it. You went through my phone. Phone records, emails, public information mostly. You weren't particularly careful, Emily. You had no right. I had every right. You're my wife. Were my wife. Are my wife. I shook my head. Tense is complicated now. She stood there, hand gripping the wine glass, and I could see her calculating, deciding whether to deny, deflect, or attack. She chose attack. You want to know why? Her voice rose. You really want to know? Because you're not there, David. You haven't been there for years. You go to work, you come home, you watch TV, you go to bed. That's it. That's your entire existence. No passion, no excitement, no... I asked you to go to counseling. Twice. You said we didn't need it. Because talking to some therapist wasn't going to fix the fundamental problem. The problem is you. You're empty. You're going through motions. You exist, but you don't live. So you decided to live by sleeping with your trainer? And some guy in Georgia? Anyone else I should know about? She flinched. It's not like that. Then what's it like? Explain it to me. It was just physical. It didn't mean anything. And Brett, She stopped herself. He's what? Special? Different? Actually interesting, unlike your boring husband? Yes. The word exploded from her. Yes, he's interesting. He listens. He cares about what I think, what I want. He doesn't just nod and zone out while I'm talking. He sees me. I see you, I said quietly. I see exactly who you are. Something in my tone made her step back. I stood, picked up my phone, stopped the recording. What are you going to do? She asked. I picked up the towel, folded it carefully, and tucked it under my arm. I'm going to the gym. I'm canceling your membership. Then I'm going home to my brother's place. You can have the house tonight. Tomorrow you should probably find a lawyer. David. I'm also going to send some documentation to a few people. Your parents, maybe. Your sister. Some of your colleagues who've been copied on emails where you've mentioned your loving husband and perfect marriage. They should know the truth. Her eyes widened. You wouldn't. Watch me. I walked past her, grabbed my jacket from the hall closet. She followed me to the door. Please, she said, and her voice cracked. Please don't do this. We can fix this. There's nothing to fix, Emily. You broke it. You broke us. You broke our family. I opened the door. I'm just making sure everyone knows who swung the hammer. I left her standing in the doorway and drove back toward LA Fitness, her towel on the passenger seat beside me, my phone full of evidence, and a clarity I hadn't felt in months settling over me like armor. The gym's fluorescent lights made everything look sterile and overexposed as I pushed through the glass doors at 6:30 Thursday morning. I'd barely slept at Ryan's place, staring at the ceiling in his guest room, replaying Emily's words. Kyle didn't mean anything. Brett sees me. I hadn't planned to come back here. But the towel sat in my car like evidence I couldn't quite process, and something pulled me toward the scene of the crime. The receptionist looked up from her computer. A woman maybe 30, dark hair pulled back in a ponytail, name tag reading Jessica. I'd seen her before, but never really noticed her. She had kind eyes. Morning, she said. Haven't seen you in a few days. Been dealing with some things. I set my membership card on the counter. I need to cancel my wife's membership. Emily Brennan. Jessica's fingers moved across her keyboard. Okay, let me pull that up. There's usually a 30-day notice requirement, but She won't be coming back. I pulled out my phone, found the photo I'd taken of the lost and found log. This is her towel, the one your staff found in Kyle's private training room on Valentine's Day morning. Jessica's face changed. Something flickered there. Recognition. maybe sympathy. Mr. Brennan, I can't really discuss. I'm not asking you to discuss anything. I pulled out my scissors, the same ones I'd used to cut up the credit cards. I'm just informing you that I'm canceling her membership, effective immediately, and I'm willing to pay whatever penalty you need. I cut through the plastic of Emily's membership card in one clean motion. The two halves clattered onto the counter. Jessica stared at them. Sir, you can't just... I can. We have a joint account. I'm authorized on everything. I pulled out my wallet, extracted my credit card. Whatever the cancellation fee is, charge it. And I want it documented that she's no longer permitted to use this facility. Mr. Brennan. Jessica's voice dropped lower. Look, I probably shouldn't say this, but Kyle's been here 6 months. You're not the first husband who's come in here with questions. Something cold settled deeper in my stomach. What are you saying? I'm saying he has a pattern. The management knows. They don't care because he brings in clients. She glanced toward the gym floor, then back to me. Your wife. She wasn't special to him. I'm sorry, but you should know that. The words should have made it worse. Instead, they clarified something. Emily had blown up our marriage for a man who did this regularly, who probably had 3 other clients on the same rotation. The thought was almost funny. Thank you, I said, for telling me. Jessica processed the cancellation in silence. When she handed me the receipt, she said, For what it's worth, I think you're handling this better than most would. I wasn't sure about that. I felt like I was moving through water, every action requiring enormous effort to appear normal. Back in my car, I sat with the engine running. The gym's parking lot was filling up with the morning crowd. People starting their days, pursuing their routines, probably half of them having no idea their lives could detonate without warning. My phone buzzed. A text from Emily. We need to talk about the house. And the girls. I stared at the message. 3 days ago, we'd been married. Now we were negotiating logistics like business partners dissolving a company. I didn't respond. Instead, I opened my email and started a new message. The cursor blinked in the recipient field, waiting. This was the moment. I could send the photos of the towel log, the screenshots of the phone records, the evidence of Emily's lies to everyone in her contact list, her parents, her sister, her colleagues at Meridian Financial Services, the other soccer moms. Everyone who thought we were the stable couple, the ones who had it figured out. My finger hovered over her contact list. I'd synced it to my phone years ago, back when we shared everything. Do it, part of me whispered. Let them all see who she really is. But I sat there, engine idling, and something Ryan had said last night came back to me. You can burn her world down, but you'll be standing in the ashes too, and Lily and Madison will be right there with you. I closed the email app. Instead, I called the divorce attorney Ryan had recommended, a guy named Travis Webb, who supposedly specialized in high-conflict cases. His secretary put me through after a brief hold. Mr. Brennan, Webb's voice was crisp, professional. Your brother mentioned you might be calling. What's your situation? I gave him the abbreviated version. Married 11 years, 2 kids. Wife having at least 2 affairs. Evidence documented. Do you have actual proof? Webb asked. Not suspicions, proof. Phone records showing hundreds of calls and texts to another man. Emails between them. Gym records showing her towel was found in her trainer's private room. Her own admission on a recording I made. California's a no-fault state, Webb said. But documentation of infidelity can still impact custody and asset division, especially if there's evidence of deception or misuse of marital funds. When can you come in? Today, this morning if you have time. I have a cancellation at 10. Bring everything you've got, phone records, bank statements, the recording, anything that establishes a timeline. I made it to Webb's office in Westwood by 9:45. The building was older, professional, but not flashy. His suite was on the third floor, decorated with law degrees and family photos that seemed designed to project stability. Webb himself was maybe 50, graying at the temples, with the kind of face that had seen every variation of marital disaster. He shook my hand and gestured to a chair across from his desk. "Let's see what you've got." I spread it out. Printed phone records, screenshots of the emails, photos of the towel log, the recording on my phone. Webb went through each piece methodically, making notes on a legal pad. "The recording is good," he said. "California's a two-party consent state for recording conversations, but there's an exception for gathering evidence of a crime, or when you have reason to believe you're being defrauded. Given the circumstances, this should hold up. The phone records and emails are solid. The towel log is circumstantial, but supports the pattern." "What about her promotion?" I asked. "She started traveling to Atlanta twice a month. That's where Brett Coleman lives, the guy she's been calling." Webb made another note. "If company funds were used to facilitate the affair, that could be relevant. But that's between her and her employer. For our purposes, we focus on the marriage assets and custody." "I want primary custody," I said. "She's been lying to our daughters, sneaking around, putting her affairs ahead of their stability." "Judges care about the children's best interests," Webb said carefully. "Unless there's evidence of neglect or danger to the children, California tends to favor shared custody. But we can argue for primary physical custody based on stability and her travel schedule. The affairs themselves won't automatically disqualify her as a parent." The words landed like stones. "So she can blow up our family and still get equal access to our kids?" "Potentially, yes. I know it doesn't feel fair. But the law separates being a bad spouse from being a bad parent." Webb leaned forward. "That said, we can absolutely use her deception and the disruption she's caused to argue that you're the more stable primary residence, especially if her job requires frequent travel." "What about the house?" "California's a community property state. Assets acquired during the marriage get split 50-50 unless there's a compelling reason otherwise." "How long have you owned the home?" 9 years. We bought it together." "Then it's community property, but we can negotiate. Maybe she takes a larger share of retirement accounts. You keep the house. Depends what she wants and what her attorney pushes for." I thought about Emily last night, standing in our living room, admitting everything with that cold defiance. "She'll fight. She won't make this easy." "They rarely do," Webb said, "especially when they're caught. Expect her to try to flip the narrative, make herself the victim, claim you were emotionally absent, whatever justifies her choices in her mind. She already started that. Said I've been sleepwalking through existence." Webb smiled without humor. "Classic. Look, Mr. Brennan, I've been doing this 23 years. Here's what's going to happen. We file for divorce, citing irreconcilable differences. We don't need to detail the affairs in the initial filing, but we keep all this evidence ready. We propose a custody arrangement with you as primary physical custodian, her getting reasonable visitation. We propose you keep the house. She takes equivalent value elsewhere. Then we wait and see what she counters with. And if she fights for primary custody? Then we use everything you've shown me to demonstrate that you're the stable parent, the one who's been present and honest. The affairs matter because they show a pattern of deception and prioritizing her desires over family stability." Webb tapped the phone records. "This documentation is strong. Not the best I've seen, but solid enough to work with." I felt something unknot slightly in my chest. "When do we start?" "I'll draw up the initial petition today. You'll need to review and sign it. Then we file and serve her. After that, it's a waiting game. California has a 6-month minimum waiting period for divorce finalization, but custody and support arrangements can be worked out sooner. 6 months. Minimum. If she contests anything, it can take longer. A year, sometimes 18 months, if it goes to trial." The timeline stretched out ahead of me, an endless corridor of legal motions and negotiations and sleeping in Ryan's guest room while my daughters wondered why Daddy didn't live at home anymore. One more thing, I said. I have her entire contact list. Family, friends, colleagues. I've thought about sending them everything, showing everyone who she really is. Webb's expression hardened. Don't. Absolutely do not do that. Why not? She deserves. Because a judge will see it as harassment and vindictive behavior. Because it could hurt your custody case. Because it will make you look unstable and vengeful, which is exactly what her attorney will argue you are. Webb held my gaze. I understand the impulse. But that kind of scorched earth approach always backfires. Always. I sat back, the fantasy of public exposure dissolving. So she just gets away with it. She doesn't get away with anything. She's losing her marriage, likely losing primary custody of her children, and facing the natural consequences of her choices. The people who matter will figure it out on their own. You don't need to be the one to tell them. I left Webb's office at 11:30 with a retainer agreement signed and a promise that the divorce petition would be ready by Monday. The morning had turned warm, typical Los Angeles February weather that felt wrong for the death of a marriage. My phone buzzed again. Another text from Emily. David, ignoring me won't make this easier. We have to figure out logistics. This time I responded, got a lawyer. You should do the same. All communication goes through them now. 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. Then, you're really doing this. You did this, I typed back. I'm just finishing it. I drove back toward Ryan's place, but halfway there I detoured to the elementary school. Pickup wasn't until 3, but I sat in the parking lot anyway, watching parents come and go from the office, seeing the playground empty in the midday sun. Lily and Madison were in there somewhere, learning multiplication or reading about the solar system, having no idea that their world was being carefully dismantled by attorneys and custody agreements. I'd have to tell them soon. Not everything. They didn't need to know about Kyle or Brett or their mother's lies. But they'd need to know that Daddy wasn't coming home, that things were changing, that it wasn't their fault. The thought of those conversations made my chest tight. My phone rang. Jessica, from the gym. I almost didn't answer. Mr. Brennan? I hope this isn't inappropriate, but I wanted to let you know. Kyle came in for his shift, and management called him into the office. I don't know what was said, but he left 20 minutes later. I think they finally did something. Thank you for telling me. Also, she hesitated. If you ever want to talk, just to talk, I'm usually here mornings. I've been through a divorce too. It helps sometimes, having someone who gets it. I thanked her again and ended the call, not sure what to make of the offer. Kindness from a stranger felt foreign right now, like I'd forgotten that existed. But I saved her number anyway. 2 years later, I stood in the kitchen of my new townhouse in Pasadena, packing lunches for Lily and Madison. Peanut butter and jelly for Lily, turkey and cheese for Madison. Their preferences hadn't changed, even if everything else had. Dad, can Ashley come over after school? Madison called from upstairs. She was 11 now, growing into that awkward stage where childhood and adolescence collided. If her mom says it's okay, I called back. The divorce had taken 14 months to finalize. Emily had fought for primary custody initially, hired an attorney who tried to paint me as controlling and paranoid. But the evidence, the phone records, the emails, the documented lies, had told a different story. The judge awarded me primary physical custody, with Emily getting the girls every other weekend and alternating holidays. She'd kept the house in Riverside. I'd taken my retirement accounts and bought this smaller place closer to my new job. I'd left the manufacturing plant 6 months after the divorce papers were served. Couldn't stomach the routine anymore. The same drive, the same office where I'd spent years sleepwalking through existence. Emily's words, but she hadn't been entirely wrong. Now I managed operations for a mid-sized tech company in Burbank. Better pay, better hours, and I actually cared about the work. Emily had lasted 8 months at Meridian Financial Services after our separation. The affair with Brett Coleman had continued for a while, I'd heard through mutual friends, but eventually imploded. Kyle the trainer had been fired from LA Fitness after 2 more husbands complained. Emily had moved to a different company, taken a position that required less travel. She'd started dating someone new, a divorced father of 2 she'd met through some app. The girls had met him twice. They said he was okay. I didn't ask for details. "Ready, Dad." Lily bounded down the stairs, backpack bouncing. She was 9 now, had lost her 2 front teeth, and gained a fierce independence that sometimes scared me. We drove to school in comfortable silence, the morning routine we'd established feeling natural now rather than forced. I watched them disappear through the school doors, Madison's arm around Lily's shoulder, and felt the familiar ache of loving someone so much it physically hurt. My phone buzzed. A text from Jessica. "Coffee before work?" Jessica from the gym. We'd been dating for 4 months now, taking it slow, both of us carrying scar tissue from our respective divorces. She understood when I needed space, didn't push for more than I could give. The girls had met her once, briefly, when she'd stopped by to drop off something I'd left at her place. Madison had been polite but distant. Lily had asked if Jessica was my girlfriend. "She's someone I'm spending time with," I'd said, which was the truth. "Can't today. Big presentation at 10? Tomorrow?" "It's a date." I drove to work through morning traffic, listening to a podcast about organizational leadership, and realized I couldn't remember the last time I'd felt that cold emptiness that had defined the final months of my marriage. The betrayal still stung sometimes, usually late at night when I couldn't sleep. But the acute pain had faded into something more manageable, a scar rather than an open wound. Emily and I were cordial now, in the way divorced parents learn to be. We texted about school events and doctor appointments. We sat on opposite sides of the gym during Madison's basketball games. We split holidays, according to the custody agreement, without drama. She'd apologized once, about 6 months after everything finalized, a carefully worded email that acknowledged mistakes and poor choices without taking full responsibility. I'd read it twice and deleted it. Some things didn't require a response. The presentation at work went well. My boss, a sharp woman named Patricia, who'd built the department from scratch, pulled me aside afterward. "You're up for senior director if you want it. Means more responsibility, some travel, significant raise." I thought about it for maybe 3 seconds. "I want it." "Good. We'll make it official next quarter." Driving home that evening, I called Ryan. He answered on the second ring, his twin daughters screaming in the background. "You surviving?" I asked. "Barely. Sarah's got them hopped up on sugar. I'm hiding in the garage." He paused. "What's up?" "Got offered senior director." "David, that's fantastic. You taking it?" "Yeah. Means some travel, but nothing like Emily's schedule was. Maybe 1 trip a month." "You've earned it. Seriously." His voice softened. "You doing okay? I know this week is—" "I'm fine." This week marked 2 years since I'd found the phone records, since the champagne celebration that had started everything unraveling. "Really? I'm good." And I was. Not perfect, not healed completely, but good. Functional. Moving forward rather than just existing. After dinner with the girls, tacos, their favorite, I helped with homework while they told me about their days. Madison had gotten an A on her science project. Lily had been chosen for the school play. Normal things, beautiful in their ordinariness. Later, after they'd gone to bed, I sat on my small balcony with a beer and looked out at the Pasadena hills. The townhouse wasn't as nice as the house in Riverside, but it was mine. The furniture I'd chosen, the paint colors I'd picked, the life I'd built from the wreckage. My phone lit up with a text from Emily. "Girls said you got a promotion. Congratulations." "Thanks," I typed back. You deserve it. You're doing great with them, with everything. I stared at the message, surprised by the sincerity. Maybe she'd grown too. Maybe her own consequences had taught her something. Or maybe she just felt guilty and this was how she processed it. We both are, I replied, because it felt true and because I didn't want to carry bitterness forever. The thing about betrayal is that it teaches you who you are when everything falls apart. I'd learned I was stronger than I'd thought, more resilient, capable of rebuilding. I'd also learned that marriage requires two people choosing each other every single day, and that love without trust is just shared space in legal documents. Emily had chosen excitement over stability, novelty over commitment. Those choices had cost her the family she'd claimed to want, the marriage she'd taken for granted. I didn't take pleasure in her losses anymore. I just felt grateful I'd found out before wasting more years on someone who'd already left in every way that mattered. The girls would be okay. They'd already adjusted better than I'd feared, their resilience reminding me that children are tougher than we give them credit for. They'd grow up understanding that sometimes people make mistakes, that families change shape but don't disappear, that love persists even when its form transforms. I finished my beer and went inside, checking the locks and turning off lights. Tomorrow, I'd wake up at 6, make breakfast, pack lunches, drive the girls to school. I'd go to work and do a job I actually cared about. Maybe I'd text Jessica, make plans for the weekend. Maybe I'd take the girls hiking or to the movies, or just let them veg out in front of the TV while I caught up on laundry. Small things, normal things. The kind of existence Emily had dismissed as sleepwalking. But I was awake now. Fully, painfully, gratefully awake. And that made all the difference. The moral, if there is one, isn't complicated. Trust isn't given once at an altar and then forgotten. It's built in small moments, protected by honesty, and destroyed by choices that prioritize temporary pleasure over lasting commitment. When it breaks, you can't force someone to rebuild it with you. All you can do is decide what kind of person you'll be in the aftermath, bitter or better, stuck or moving forward. The betrayal doesn't define you. Your response to it does. I chose to move forward, not perfectly, not without stumbling, but forward nonetheless. And in the end, that was enough.